Hi folks, it's Larry Cedar back for another session on Sqanning, Sqanning, a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical and mental calm. So I do these sessions a couple times a day. I'll also practice on my own for myself. The reason I do it, it's like anything you want to get better at in life, you practice. Especially this technique, because tension has a habit of sneaking up on us. And sometimes even when I don't even really feel like practicing, I will practice, because what I've learned from practicing this technique for many years and many hours is that you can have tension in your body on levels deep beneath your consciousness that you're not even aware of. And they could be affecting your life in ways you're not even aware of, affecting your decision-making process, affecting how you feel. And what I've learned is to practice even when I don't feel like, because I will inevitably discover some layers of tension that I'm so much better off not having in my body. So I practice frequently. Sometimes I practice for 5 minutes, sometimes I practice for half an hour, sometimes, if I have the time, I practice for an hour. Because when I've, as I call it, crossed that bridge over from tension into release, it feels so much better. And practicing this reinforces the technique and reinforces the value of going to a place of calm and relaxation and stillness. So, like I said, it's like anything you'd want to get good at in life that you practice, you practice. The good thing about this technique is that you can do it for a minute, you can do it once, you can do it twice, you can not do it for a week, you can always come back to it. It's completely free. You don't have to go anywhere to practice it. You don't have to talk to anybody or read a book or open an app or turn on your television. You don't have to ingest any particular substance. You don't have to wear any particular clothes. It was designed to be practiced anywhere, anytime. Because that's what I wanted in my life, was something that I could utilize at any time in my life to just completely relax. And that's it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the technique like I always do before every session, and then we will begin. So make yourself comfortable in a chair. The most important part of this practice is starting, because once you've started, then you've basically made the decision. You've confirmed, reaffirmed in your mind and body that it's important and valuable to take the time to relax and release. So first thing you do is you sit in a chair or a couch or wherever you're comfortable and just sit in still silence for a moment. And all you're doing is acknowledging that you are stepping out of the treadmill of life into something different. I'm not watching TV anymore. I'm not on the internet. I'm not typing emails. I'm not playing video games. I've stepped outside of all of those things just for a moment, because I know instinctively that that has value. So that's the way you start. You start by sitting still and quiet for just a moment and take stock of how you feel. And give yourself a number, say on a scale of 1 to 10. Where is your level of tension? And you might say a 6, not bad. You might say a 10, doesn't matter. Pick a number, because that's going to be your reference point, and we're going to work from there. So just take a moment to assess. Take a breath. This is the first step to the process. You've let go of whatever you were doing. You've let go of whatever you were thinking. You've let go of whatever conversation you were having. You've let go of whatever technical device you were working with, or any troublesome thoughts you were obsessing over, and you've just stopped and take stock of where you are. And you could say, I'm a nervous wreck. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 12. Okay, just take stock. That's the first step. Where am I at? And again, don't be surprised if you feel, I'm okay, but then as we begin this process, you begin to release tensions you didn't even know you had. So first step, take an assessment. Deep breath. So, the two basic functions of the universe are contraction and expansion. Everything breaks down to either being in a state of contraction, expansion, or some combination of the two. So, depending on where we're at in that spectrum of contraction and expansion, and you can kind of take a sense of where that's at. You're either far to one side, very contracted, and that would be the worst possible case. Not only is your body locked up, but your mind is locked up. You're in denial, complete denial. You refuse to accept or process anything you see or do. You've completely imploded. That's complete contraction. That's the extreme. Most of our lives we spend in a high state of contraction, but it's usually somewhere in between. But let's say you're completely contracted. That's the extreme. The opposite of that would be completely expanded. That means you're open to anything. You've released all tension. Your body, your mind, your soul are completely accessible to other forces in the universe. You've basically dropped your guard. Now that might seem like a dangerous place to be in. That's why it's always a little scary to start this process, because it feels like we're letting go of our protection. Typically when you say to someone, relax, what do? They freeze up, because the very thought of relaxing, of letting down all these guards you've built into your system is terrifying, because then what's going to protect me? I'm completely vulnerable to the world. And it's true. When you're completely expanded, you have no resistance to anything. There's no muscular resistance. There's no mental resistance. You are completely floating freely. And it's a wonderful place to be. Seems a little dangerous. The odd thing is that when you do expand, when you do release, when you do let go of the muscular tension, when you do let go of obsessive thoughts, you're actually in a safer place, because you're highly aware at that point of everything that's going on around you. You're not in any sort of state of denial or resistance, so you're actually more prepared to deal with whatever comes your way. But it doesn't feel that way when you start. So I will warn you that in starting the process of scanning, the incremental release of muscular tension, you will inevitably feel a sense of resistance. Physical, mental, emotional resistance to the process, just because it's scary to let down your guard. Take that sensation of fear as evidence that you are headed in the right direction. So if you feel that fear, don't pull back. Say, yes, good. That's my body saying I'm letting go. Good, that's what I want to do. It's just important to recognize that. Otherwise, every time you start, you'll go, oh God, it's too scary, I don't want to, and you won't do it. I've been doing this for years. I've been doing it for thousands of hours. Every single time. Today, when I started today, I felt resistant. Part of me said, I don't want to do this. Why? Because it meant turning off the TV, shutting off the computer, putting down my phone, clearing my mind of obsessive thoughts, trying to control things with my mind, letting down my physical muscular guard, and that's scary. I've learned through experience that once you pass through that, what's on the other side is wonderful. So again, all of life is a contraction or an expansion. We usually are, in a somewhat contracted state, depending. We could be a total wreck, completely contracted. The extreme version of contraction is insanity, because you're in complete denial of your reality. You're completely contracted. You can't accept reality. You're shut off from everything. That's an extreme. As you begin to accept and open up and expand, you begin to understand. You're more capable of processing the world, and life just doesn't seem so frightening. So we want to move in that direction. So again, we're setting up a metaphor. Scanning is a metaphor for the greater forces of the universe, contraction and expansion. So clasp your hands together. We're going to start. Squeeze your hands. That's contraction. What does that feel like? 90% of this process is awareness. Really tuning in to the difference between contraction and expansion. What is the difference emotionally, physically, spiritually? I want you to be an expert at these two items. So if I say to you, go to contraction, you go, I know what that's like. I remember what that feels like. Now, if I say to you on my count, go to complete expansion, 3, 2, 1, release. Take a deep breath. That feels different. That's expansion. Immediately. Like a wave passing through your body. So I want you to study that difference. Study in particular what it feels like to expand. This is just a metaphor. We're going to take this sense of expansion and we're going to allow it to flow through our entire body, into our soul, in our mind, until when we get to the end of this session, you've moved incrementally towards an expanded state. Never judge yourself by how far you get. It's irrelevant. Irrelevant. If you move 1 degree, you've succeeded, because you've changed direction. You've gotten off the treadmill, which most of this life is. Pursuit, 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 effort, effort, contraction, contraction, building, trying, efforting. You've stopped that, if only for a moment. And you said, you know what? Equally important is expansion. And I'm going to focus a little bit of time on that. So if you even stop doing this for a moment and let go a little bit, you've acknowledged that that's important. And that's key. Because the problem is that we forget. We recognize that contraction, effort, achieves things. It gets us money, it gets us food, it gets us success, it gets us relationship. Why wouldn't we just keep doing that all the time? The problem is you become more and more contracted until you lose your effectiveness as a person. Because you're so closed off with effort and contraction, you lose your flexibility, you lose your awareness, you become imploded. So all this process is doing is reminding us that there's an equally valuable process, and that is expansion. So now we're going to start to take that sense of expansion through our body. Squeeze your hands together. Again, we've created a metaphor. Squeeze, that's contraction. What does it feel like? Do you feel the constriction? Physically, this is a very physical process. Don't try to intellectualize this at all. We're just dealing with the muscles, and all the muscles know how to do is contract and expand. So we're right there. Squeeze. On my count, you're going to release completely and let that sense of release pass through your entire body. 3, 2, 1, release. Deep breath. How does that feel? Different. I like to say you want to let this sense of release pass through your body like when you take a drop of food coloring, let's say blue dye, and drop it into a glass of clear water in a glass. Drop it in and it hits and then it expands. And that's what's happening. You're allowing this sense of release to pass through your body, to extend. If you leave a drop of dye in a glass of water, eventually it dissipates through the entire glass of water, and that's what you want to happen. You want to let that sense of release pass through your entire body, into your chest, your feet, your legs, your hands, back of your head, your face. Here, let's do it again. Squeeze your hands. That's contraction. 3, 2, 1, and release. What did that feel like? Let that release pass into your chest, your face. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Now study the changes that just occurred. You're slowly, incrementally moving yourself into an expanded state. And you'll begin to feel those changes. You'll feel a little more comfortable in your chair, a little more settled in, not so antsy. You'll feel a slightly lessened sense of compulsion that there's somewhere you need to be, or something you need to do, or some thought you need to be having. Suddenly you feel a little bit off the hook, like, you know what, it might be just okay just to sit here for a minute and just be with myself. So you're moving yourself in an expanded direction. That's all we're doing. Contraction, expansion. That's all this process is. Contraction, expansion. Building a heightened awareness of the difference so that you can encourage expansion in yourself on your own. And all we're doing is setting up a metaphor. If you come away with nothing else today, it's this practice. Squeeze your hands together. That's contraction. On my count, 3, 2, 1, release. That's expansion. Let that sensation of release pass through your entire body. And as you begin to relax and release, you'll find you're getting more frequent impulses to take a deep breath. It's because once the body gets the message that it's safe, and that's all we're doing is gently coaxing our body into a state of release. Once it begins to get the message that it's safe, it's okay. We're not in danger. You know how we hold your breath when we're scared? That's what we've been doing all day. And the breath goes, oh, all we're doing now is sitting and breathing. It's safe to take a breath. Thank goodness I'm going to take it because I have been depleted. So whenever you feel that impulse, take that breath. That's a gift from your body to you. A gift. You've just reoxygenated your entire system. Your organs are getting more oxygen, your muscles, everything. And there's a slight tingling you feel in your body as you're starting to come back into yourself. You're starting to let go of all these things you've been hanging on to. And sit and observe and study that feeling. Deep breath. There is a lot going on out there in the world right now. Not telling you anything you don't already know. So what do we do with all that information? We seize hold of it with our mind. We take the information from the news, from the newspaper, from the people we're talking to, and we say, what can I do with that information? How can I take that information and work it to manipulate my life so that I'm safe, so that I can get out of this alive? We spend a lot of time thinking these days. We also spend a lot of time eating to make ourselves feel better because we're afraid. We're making a lot of effort with our minds and our bodies and how we're spending our time to control this very frightening world. Do I wear a mask? Do I not wear a mask? A lot of decisions are having to be made. These are all states of contraction. And that's fine. We need to do that. You need to think about your world so that you can prepare yourself for whatever step is best to take next. But you also need to relax. Because if you get too contracted, you lose your effectiveness. You become detached from yourself. You start to feel lousy. You can't think clearly. Your health declines. Your mental state declines. So, we scan. We work to achieve a state of release, relaxation, and we work through the incremental release of the muscles, which serves as a metaphor for the entire being. Squeeze your hands together. 3, 2, 1, release. Deep breath. And now you've sunk even deeper into a state of relaxation. So take a moment to gauge how far you've come. If you started at a 10, perhaps you're at a 9, perhaps you're at an 8, perhaps you're at a 7, but it's important that you acknowledge the change. You did that. You have the power to do that to yourself and for yourself, and that's very reassuring. Because then you never go into a panic because you feel like you're in control. No matter how frightened or tense or obsessively thinking you are, you now know that you have the power within minutes, moments. Contract, release. To let that sense of release come back into your body. It's truly a state of nothingness. Because at any given moment in your day, there's nothing you need to be doing right at that moment. You may have a list of things that you want to get accomplished, and indeed there may be some things that need to be completed quickly. But for the most part, there's always a few minutes to be found where you can sit and do absolutely nothing. What's amazing is how we've devalued those moments of silence and nothingness. What? You're not accomplishing something right now? You're not doing anything? You're not eating anything? You're not playing any games? You're not reading a book? You're not reading the newspaper? What value could that possibly have? You're doing nothing. Well, yes, I am doing something. I'm being. That's the most valuable thing of all. You know why? Because everything you do in life starts with yourself. If you've lost touch with yourself, then, as they say, you're in a canoe without a paddle. It all starts here. And when you can come back to just being, when you can take the risk of dropping everything and just being nothing but yourself, you've actually strengthened yourself because you understand physically, you sense who you are, what you are, which is much more important than any of the external things you've been reaching for. So that's what we're going to come back to, a still, quiet sense of self. Squeeze the hands together. Contraction on my count. 3, 2, 1, release. Let that sense of release pass through your body like a drop of dye in a glass of clear water. You can see the dye spreading. That's what we're doing. We're letting that sense of release pass through our entire body. You can direct it. You have the power with your mind to direct that sense of release down into your toes, to the top of your head, to your back, to your pelvis. As I'm saying it, release those areas. The face. 3, 2, 1, release. You just let go of the most incremental amount of tension in your face. It's gone. It wasn't much, but you did it. Do it again. The face. 3, 2, 1, release. Moving up to the top of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. And don't be surprised if the rest of your body follows. The back of your head. 3, 2, 1. Feel the tension. Release. Always breathe. You're in the process of letting go. The neck. 3, 2, 1, release. Now this entire portion of your body is that much more released, relaxed, free. Your chest down into your stomach and waist. 3, 2, 1, incremental amount. Let it go. The shoulders. Tune into whatever tension you might be holding in your shoulders. You're already beginning to let it go. I can feel it. 3, 2, 1, release. They just dropped infinitesimally. Into the back, down all the way into the pelvis. 3, 2, 1, release. Tiny incremental commands. Your body will follow. You can feel it. From the pelvis, down the legs, and into the feet. And the feet are very important. We hold a lot of tension in our feet. Tune into the tension in your legs and feet. And on my command, 3, 2, 1, release. The tiniest amount. Now the entire body all at once. 3, 2, 1, release. You feel that difference? It's subtle. But the reason we practice is we want to get good at picking up on even the most subtle change. Because even the most subtle change is a move in the right direction. And that's towards a completely relaxed body and mind, a sense of stillness, comfort within your own skin, a sense that you can feel sensations in your legs and feet and hands and arms and face that you maybe have been cut off from since you started building up all this tension. So just sit with that for a few minutes. Take a deep breath. So again, what we've done is we've tuned into the distinction between contraction, the sense of contraction, and the sense of expansion. And we are incrementally moving our bodies and thereby our mind, which follows, into an increased state of expansion, release, relaxation. By squeezing the hands together, 3, 2, 1, release. Letting that sense of release pass through our body into our face, top of our head, the back of our head. And every time I mention one of these areas, you can just feel it sag a little bit. Let go. The neck, let it go. The shoulders, let them drop. The chest, the stomach into the waist, let it sag. Release, let go of all tension. The back, down into the pelvis, release. Down the legs, into the feet, release. You're feeling heavier in your chair. You're feeling more comfortable. You're feeling more still. Deep breath. And again, don't take resistance to this process as a negative thing. If you feel antsy, if you feel bored, if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel impatient, these are all good signs. This is your body fighting the process. This is your body saying, I don't want to let go of this tension. I don't want to drop the phone. I don't want to drop those thoughts. I want to hang on to them. The body will do that. Expect that. Enjoy that, because that's telling you you're knocking on the right door. You hit the jackpot. If you feel resistance, you're doing the right thing. But you can move past that resistance. How? By incrementally releasing your muscular tension. You can't command your body to relax. It will resist too strongly. But you can gently coax it. And that's what we're doing. Squeeze your hands together. 3, 2, 1, release. Now it's much more easy as we've moved deeper into this process to encourage that process of release. Now, all you're doing is encouraging what's already beginning to naturally happen in the body. Because what happens is the body goes, wait a second. Once you get past the fear, it goes, this feels good. This feels right. This feels like a relief. I'm beginning to feel free. I'm beginning to have less of a nervous sense of compulsion, like there's something else I need to be doing. Your body's starting to go, it's okay to just sit here and be and breathe. And it will start to kind of take over. Let it. The body knows what to do. Once you've got it down the path to relaxation, the body can take it from there, and it will, and let it. Then you just sit back and enjoy the ride. So take 15 seconds to just see what that feels like. Deep breath. If someone said to me, I haven't got a lot of time, can you teach me the technique in 4 words? I'd say yes. Be still. Be quiet. Be still. Be quiet. If you can do those 2 things, be still, be quiet, you will have already achieved a lot. Because again, to make that decision, to approach your body, and again, this is a physical process. We're not rationalizing our way into a state of relaxation. We're literally moving our body physically into a state of relaxation through gentle coaxing. By simply deciding that you will be still and you will be quiet, you've told your body it's time to let go. It's time to let go of all the compulsions that pull me through the day by the nose. It's time to cut yourself free of all these things that pull you around and take so much energy. If only for a moment, it's time to just be. And if you stick around for the entire session, and you're welcome to, or not, you will find that as I get closer to the end of the session, there's a lot more moments of silence and stillness, because that's the goal. That's the goal. Is to come to a place where you can sit in stillness and silence and just experience yourself. The wonder and joy of just being a human, breathing creature. The joy of the sensations of your musculature, of your arms, your chest, your legs. The joy of feeling your heartbeat. The joy of feeling the blood flow through your veins. That slight throbbing that happens when your capillaries and veins and arteries open up and the blood flows more freely. The sheer joy of taking in a lungs full of oxygen. It's what we pay thousands of dollars to go to the Bahamas to do on some beach. But why shouldn't you be able to do it just right here, anywhere, anytime, in a waiting room, in an office, in your living room? Why shouldn't you be able to have those feelings accessible to you? It's just a decision. That's all this technique teaches you, is it's just a choice. And in the most general sense, it's a gentle coaxing of yourself back into a state of release, because the body will resist. Good sign. That means there's something there that it's holding on to. The more resistant you feel, the more you need to release, because that's how tight you're holding on. So we practice again to reinforce the discipline, to reinforce the idea that this is time well spent. It's a destination worth going to. In a state of nothingness, in a state of just being, your mind is clear, your body is relaxed, you're healthier, you can make better decisions. You don't feel like life is happening too fast to control, because you're so much more aware that you can easily focus on solutions. And that's why I do it several times a day, to bring myself back from the brink. Because from the moment I wake up in the morning, my mind starts working, my body starts efforting, I start reaching out for the things that are going to help me succeed and survive in this very dangerous, increasingly dangerous world. And that takes effort, that takes what I call contraction. And that's good. You need to do that. You can't be in a completely expanded state all the time, because basically then you're dead. When we die, we completely expand, and by that I mean we turn to dust. So we're living on this planet, we're living in this world. You need to make an effort. You need to work and think. This is the stuff of life, but you have to have a balance. And I come to scanning, I come to this process when I have gone too deeply into a state of contraction and need to balance myself with expansion, the opposite of contraction. Contraction, expansion. Reaching outward, reaching inward. Dealing with the external, dealing with effort, dealing with the internal, dealing with release. It's a balance. That's what you want. And even when I don't think I'm contracted, even when I think, gee, I've been having a pretty relaxed day, when I come to this process, it's always amazing how much contraction I find. Because that's what you're doing. You're an explorer. You're scanning. You're looking through the body. And again, it's a muscular approach for pockets of tension. And you're releasing them until the whole body gets on board. Your entire body releases. And the best part, your mind follows. I like to think of the mind as just another muscle. It too becomes overly contracted and needs to be released and relaxed. And it functions so much better when it's in a released and relaxed state. But the mind will follow the body. Start with the body. Start with this simple process of incremental muscular release. The metaphor, squeeze your hands, that's contraction. Study it, that's what it feels like. 3, 2, 1, release. Study what that feels like. Let that sense of release pass through your body like a drop of food coloring dye in a glass of clear water. It'll just dissipate through your entire body. And each time you do it, that release will go farther and farther. Take a deep breath. And then study that feeling. Become an expert in the process of release and relaxation. Encourage your body to continue down that path. And for our last moment, take an assessment, as we said earlier. See where you're at. If you started at a 10, have you moved to a 9? Have you moved to an 8? Have you moved to a 9.8? Doesn't matter. As long as you moved, as long as you changed, as long as you inched your body towards relaxation and release, you have succeeded. Because you have not only released the musculature of your body and thereby your mind, but you've reinforced the idea that this is a valuable process. So you will return to it. And each time you do it, you'll want to go further. I personally am addicted to the process because I've seen the benefits. I keep a log. I keep track of how many hours a day I practice it. And you don't have to practice for hours, but I like to. Because I feel like my life requires that much balance. There's that much going on in this world these days. I don't ever want to let my tension and sense of contraction build up to the point where I can't save myself. I always want to stay in balance. I always want to be able to go to this calm, still, quiet place. Because I see the value of it. It just feels good. It just feels really good. Everything seems less chaotic, less problematic. And your entire system just feels better. So that's what I do, and I encourage you to do it as frequently as you like. It's called Sqanning, Sqanning, as in scanning the body. It's the incremental release of muscular tension for the purpose of achieving a deep state of physical and mental calm. If you missed any or all of this session, I'm going to repost it on my personal Facebook page as well as the Sqanning Facebook page, Sqanning. I hope if you like this process and you want to see more sessions, you'll visit that page, like it, and follow. Just do a search for Sqanning. Again, there's no U, Sqanning. And I will be sometimes announcing when my next session is, but most of the time I just kind of pop in for live streams. And I also have a YouTube page, which you can see previous sessions as well. So use this as much or as little as you like. Again, the key to this technique, the reason I developed it, is for its simplicity, its cost, 0, its benefits, its availability, all those things. So that's it. Have a great afternoon. It is, I believe it's Sunday, and I couldn't tell you the date. I think it's the 26th. But we'll be doing this again tomorrow. I try to do 2 or 3 sessions a day for myself as well as you. And I hope you'll revisit. Again, if you just dropped in, I'll be reposting this session immediately on my personal page and the Sqanning Facebook page, which I hope you will like and follow. The more followers I get, the more people I can reach, and eventually I'll be moving all the sessions over there. So thanks a lot. Have a good afternoon. Have a good night. All the best. Bye.